If you couldn't already tell from the title of this video, my shirt, or what's in front of me, this video is about the HomePod. Now, I'd forgive you if you forgot all about this thing, because I kind of did as well. The HomePod came out a little over 2 years ago as Apple's take on a smart speaker rivaling the Google Home and Amazon Echo products. But it was overpriced, and worst of all, it had Siri, a virtual assistant that was not very smart for the time. The only thing it had going for it was very, very good audio quality, the best out there, right up there with the Google Home Max. There's no other smart speaker that sounded as good as this one did, but it was incredibly expensive, so nobody bought it. As a tech reviewer, I have an obligation to buy the latest technology, but I have to admit, I didn't get this. I waited until last week to finally pick up a HomePod. So here's why. The HomePod originally launched for $350. It had very little success, not many people bought it, and 1 year after launch, they dropped the price by $50. That's not something you ever see Apple do. They never drop the price of a product without releasing something new to replace it. Sure, they dropped the price of iPhones, but that's only when they release a newer version, and they're still selling the older one. This is the original HomePod that was released in 2018, and it has not changed one bit. In fact, it has an A8 processor in here, where we're on version 13 now, I believe. So now the going price, even today, for the HomePod is $300. You can save $50 if you want to buy it refurbished, or you can pick it up on one of the many, many sales of the HomePod at pretty much every store all the time for $100 off. I got this one for the $100 off price, so this was only $200. I have never used the HomePod. I have never listened to it before. So this is going to be an interesting experience, seeing what I think about it 2 years after it came out. First of all, the design looks really cool. It's a seamless fabric. You cannot see anything. It's a solid piece of material. It's super squishy and very soft. It feels great. The top glass on it is also really awesome. You have 3 touch controls. You have your volume up and down, and you have your center button. There's a series of LEDs that makes the Siri logo and lights. It looks really awesome. And you can do several different things with the touch controls. We have the ability to pause and play our music, we can skip tracks, go backwards, and we can activate Siri. You can also answer and decline calls right from the touch controls. You wouldn't expect something this size to have a ton of volume or sound that great, but it sounds amazing. This is probably one of the best speakers I've ever heard. It has incredible bass for only having a very small subwoofer at the top, and the array of speakers all around the side sound amazing. It automatically adapts the audio to any situation that you're in. So if you stick it in a corner, it's going to use that corner to add volume and sound. And it's also going to direct more volume away from the corner, so it's not wasting its energy in the corner. This also has AirPlay 2, something that came out after the HomePod was released. It allows you to set up multiple HomePods together in a stereo pair if you really feel like spending $500 on 2 HomePods. And by far my favorite feature is audio handoff. That just allows you to transfer audio from your phone to your HomePod really easily. You just bring your phone up to it, tap it on the HomePod, and it transfers the audio over, whether it's a phone call or music or a video. And when you want to leave, just tap it again and it will bring the audio back from the HomePod to your phone. That's my favorite feature, and it's so cool. The features of the HomePod are really cool and the audio is amazing, but here are the issues with it. First of all, it has Siri, still not the best virtual assistant, but it's getting better, and it's going to get better with iOS 14 and the HomePod version operating system 14 as well. You can ask it a lot more questions now than you could previously. It also integrates with third-party services better than it used to, but still not at the level of the Amazon Echo or Google Home products. For example, it integrates with iHeartRadio, but not in the way you would think. If you tell any other virtual assistant, play whatever radio station on iHeartRadio, it'll play it from iHeartRadio. This one is a little too user-friendly. You just tell it the name of the radio station to play, and it will find it. If you tell it to play on iHeartRadio, it'll tell you that it does not integrate with iHeartRadio, yet it technically does. You can also not install any third-party programs or applications. You can play Jeopardy on your Amazon Echo. You cannot do any of that on here. There is no integration with third-party services at all. Apple has to build those in like they did with the iHeartRadio streaming service. It is kind of cool having a device that's integrated with Apple's ecosystem. You can send text messages, you can make reminders, you can make calls. Those are all really cool and something that I enjoy using a lot. but you are limited to what Siri can do, and she still can't do everything. Another limitation is Apple Music. This is pretty much not functional unless you have an Apple Music subscription. If you tap the middle of the HomePod, it starts playing right away your music. If you don't have an Apple Music subscription, it'll play from your iTunes library. You cannot really do anything with this unless you have Apple Music. If you want to play something that's not Apple Music, you have to go to your phone, you have to select AirPlay, and you have to choose this device as your output. But if you want to tell it to play something, you have to have Apple Music. As heavily reliant as this is on Apple Music, you think it would be a little bit cheaper considering you kind of have to pay $10 a month for your Apple Music subscription if you want to take full advantage of the HomePod. Now, on version 14 of the HomePod operating system coming out this fall, Apple is going to allow you to set your default audio playback source. So instead of Apple Music, you can now change it to Spotify, which is going to help in getting this away from needing an Apple Music subscription, but still as of now, you kind of have to have Apple Music if you want to do much on it. So $350 is definitely not worth it for the HomePod, and I'm saying probably $300 isn't either. However, you can find these brand new for $200 on sale pretty much anywhere, and I think at that price it's an interesting buy. There's definitely more coming to this in the future. It's getting software updates, and there's a lot of things that you can do as of now. It's not as complex and smart as some of the other virtual assistants out there, but when it comes to music, this is amazing. Even if you don't have Apple Music, you can still AirPlay to this from any device, and it works pretty good. If you just want those voice controls, you do need Apple Music, but if you're already a subscriber, I think this is definitely something worth considering. But there you go, that is what I think of the HomePod. For $200, it's a pretty good deal, but I think there is still some ways that it can go. If you want to learn more, links will be in the description below. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. Get subscribed so you don't miss any more videos about maybe what's coming soon on the HomePod. Thank you for watching as always. This is Mark, and I'll see you in the next one.